Welcome to another video, and this is the new Valiant Gauntlet. We are uploading this video after a very long time. I guess I took a break from this game for a while, but now we are back, and this Gauntlet, to be honest, looks interesting. The layout has changed, the design has changed for sure. So let's see. The first 3 fights are the fights wherein you will need a science champion, preferably any science champion who is poison immune. Even rank 1s would do, because you will eventually gain a lot of fury buffs anyways, and the fights will be shorter. Having said that, if you do not have a champion who's immune to poison, you can just bring in any science champion at a higher rank, and whenever you basically are doing well-timed blocks or dexing the attacks of the enemy, the poisons will be removed. Plus, science champions have 85% immunity, or they reduce the effect of poison up to 85%, so you will be taking significantly less damage. So that is about it for the first 3 fights. You basically ideally need champions who are immune to poison, science champions at any rank. Even 6-star rank 3s or 4s would do, just like I am fighting with a rank 4 sentry. Or you will need a science champion, but have to make sure that you are dexing or doing well-timed blocks to ensure that those poison debuffs are purified of you. As you can see, I have not taken any hits, but I have already lost some health due to those poison debuffs. So yeah, you will lose some health. It's not significant, but this much health can for sure help you in the later part of the quest. Now Ronan is pretty much easy, so which is why I just went in with a rank 4 sentry, and there you go, poisons removed, and we are almost done with this fight. Now the third fight on this path, although, is a little bit tricky, which is basically a mole man. As you can see here, you have to remember 2 things here. He will inflict shock debuff on you whenever you dash back, and you cannot end your combo with this similar attack as the last one. So as you can see, we ended our combo with a medium attack. Now we have to end it with a light attack, and you just have to rotate in between. So that is it. Onslaught is the ideal counter for all 3 molemen fights in this second quest, because you will be immune to shock and you will be taking no shock damage whenever you dash back, and you can stun moleman very easily with Onslaught. So this fight is a cheese with Onslaught basically. So all the next fights have the similar format. Science champions who are ideally poison immune, and then against moleman you have to go in with a mutant champion, preferably who's immune to shock. I personally ended up using a lot of 6 stars, even rank 4s in this particular quest, especially science champions. This was an itemless run, and I'm sure you can do it without spending any revives or health potions. Enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care, stay healthy.